Alright guys, I've had several people ask me about the Brembo brake setup I'm running on this car, my 1988 Chevy Caprice, and I want to walk you through kind of how I figured this out. This is a 14-inch Brembo brake setup. It uses the rotor off of a C6 Z06. It uses a caliper off of a Cadillac XTS, like a 2016, and the pads. Basically, the thing with these cars is they share most of their suspension with the second-gen Camaro. There's a few small differences. The bushings mainly are different, but the second-gen Camaro suspension geometry is basically identical to the 77 and 96 Caprice Impala B-body suspension geometry. So, with that being the case, there's a few cool things about that. A company called CPP, I think that means Classic Performance Parts, they make upper and lower control arms for the second-gen Camaro that will fit our cars, but they also make a C5 style spindle, is what they call it. And what that is it's a spindle or a knuckle, whatever you want to call it, that takes a Corvette sealed wheel bearing hub. And it also takes Corvette brake bolt pattern. So the thing that's cool about that is that opens up a lot of brake opportunities for this chassis. Now, the C5 guys, one of their go-tos is the Z06 brakes, and for some of them, instead of getting the Z06, the C6 Z06 calipers, which are very expensive, they just go for this Cadillac Brembo caliper. It's only a 4-piston, it's not a 6-piston, so it's not quite as beefy, if you like, but to me, for street driving, it's plenty. It's overkill versus the stock brakes on these cars are undersized. They're sized for a Chevelle, and they're not really enough, in my opinion. So, in my mind, I was like, if the Corvette guys can run these Brembo brakes, and they make a Corvette-style spindle that's supposed to accept Corvette brakes, pretty much anything that bolts onto a Corvette bolts onto this spindle. And I found just a couple cases where guys using this spindle had put the Z06 brakes, the C6 Z06 brakes, including the Z06 calipers, on their second generation Camaros. But I hadn't found anybody that had put the Brembos on this spindle. So I was like, this is a little bit of a gamble. I'm gonna take it anyway. And this is what I came up with. C6 Z06 rotor, Cadillac XTS, 2016 XTS Brembo caliper. I'm using power stop pads because I've had good luck with them in the past. I'm using a stainless steel braided line. It was a universal line because the factory lines were too short, or I honestly would have probably reused them. The CPP spindle, I'm running C7 hub assemblies because they're supposed to be a little bit stronger. I don't really think that matters, but I wanted to have every bit of strength I could for this car, just because. And the only thing that was necessary to make it bolt up that wasn't like perfect bolt on is, I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see it. Where's it at? I'm not even sure where it's at now. It's been a while. Back here, there is a shim, a washer between the caliper and the hub. And what that does is it provides just enough clearance to center. Now, I found that most of the off-the-shelf washers were too thick, so I ordered some 1mm thick stainless steel shims from McMastercar, however you say that company, and they worked perfectly. I was able to get the thing lined up pretty much dead center, exactly where I wanted it. And then to run the wheels that I'm running, I don't think I needed the spacers, but I ended up running a 1-inch spacer just because I didn't want the wheel to be sucked in against the frame and hit the frame, rub constantly. It already rubs at full lock on the inside. So definitely glad that I pushed it out a little bit. Let me give you another look at what this looks like. 14-inch rotor. Brembos. They're dirty right now from this road trip, driving through water and stuff, but overall pretty sweet. Tons of pad life left. Only negative about this swap is you'd actually be better off with a slightly bigger rotor than the 14-inch rotor because the pads overhang the edge of the rotor just a tiny bit. It's not quite perfect, but as you can see, they are right up to the inside of the stopping surface on the rotor. So we're not really losing any stopping power. We're just could afford a tiny bit bigger rotor. Kind of interesting. I think that these calipers actually came stock with like a 13.5-inch rotor, and the caliper would have been closer to the center of the hub on the Cadillac. That's what I came up with. I'm going to put a parts list in the description. I hope that this helps somebody who's trying to make one of these cars handle and perform well. Huge upgrade to stopping power. This combined with the Hydro Boost that I did, and no problem with the brakes. It brakes for days. I, figured that this brake setup is probably, if I were to track the car eventually, probably good for light track use. Obviously rather have 6 pistons. Could funnel some air to the rotors to keep them cool, but that's all super overkill. I don't need any of that for the street. This is just going to be a cruising car, and occasionally I'll probably put it on the drag strip and on the autocross. So with that said, I'm super happy with it, super stoked, and I really hope this helps somebody out. If it did help you out, or if you find this kind of information interesting, give me a like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel, and I want to keep making videos like this and keep figuring things out, and just help the community grow and get these cars on the road.